I just want to tell a story real quick about family work day that we had a few years back at my house. And it was decided that we were going to get the kids together, and my wife and I, and it was outdoor cleanup day. My wife had the whole thing organized and set up. We didn't do this very often, but it was all set up. So my job was to cut down these row of little shrubs in front of the house. So what I did was I figured, well, I never use a chainsaw very much. Somebody had given me one a few years before that. So I got out the chainsaw and I started that thing up, and you know, it was the closest thing to having a Harley, you know, just like revving the thing up. It was a German chainsaw. It was heavy duty. It was awesome. Well, my wife said to me, she said, you know, honey, and she pointed out of the middle of the evergreens was this big old oak tree. And up at the top of the oak was a limb. And my wife pointed way up in the sky and she said, you know, see that up there? See that big limb hanging off? She said, that just doesn't look right. And I said, honey, I mean, who looks up there? I mean, there's all these big evergreens around it. We shouldn't worry about it. She said, no, we got to take it down. So I said, all right. I got my chainsaw. I went and I got my step ladder. Do not go up a ladder with a chainsaw. But you'll see why later, dramatically. Anyway, I'm climbing up the tree. I got the chainsaw. It's not running. And I get near the top, and I'm looking for a place to grab onto because I'm climbing up with one hand, because with one hand I'm holding onto the chainsaw. So I get near the top, and I look in between the rung of the ladder, and I see coming out of the tree, I call it a nub. There's probably an official name for it, but there was this short little nub sticking out of the tree. And so I said, all right, I just kind of took my hand off of it, and I reached up a little bit higher, and I grabbed something else, and I pulled myself up. I get to the top of the tree. I'm on top of the top rung of the ladder. I'm top of the tree, and I have the chainsaw in my left hand. I reach around the top of the tree. The big old limb is hanging down. I was able to start the chainsaw, one pull, good chainsaw. And now I have the chainsaw, and I'm standing on top of the ladder on top of the tree. Well, I just had to go zzz, and this big old, I mean, it was the top of that had fallen off was like, that had been struck by lightning was about this big. So when I hit that went flying, and I figured, great, I'm done. So now, though I have the chainsaw, and the way I was situated, I could not figure out how to shut the chainsaw off. So I figured, well, I'll just hold the chainsaw out while I go down the ladder. Another lesson, boys and girls, don't do it that way. Well, anyway, I take one step down from the top of the ladder, and there's that nub. And as soon as I grabbed onto it and I went to step, the nub broke off of my hand, and I went flying. Well, I knew that the main thing to be concerned about was the chainsaw. Well, I held the chainsaw out as far away from me as I could because it's still running, and I landed, thud, on my right hip. And I just lay in there, the chainsaw still running, nobody knew I fell. The sound, I don't know if you've ever played sports or been in an accident or something like that, but the feeling was you knew that there was some serious internal damage, but you couldn't identify it. It was just this, ugh. Well, finally I was able to get over and hit the chainsaw switch, shut that off. And what do you do when something like that happens? You call your mother. Well, my mother didn't live close by, so I called my wife and said, I go, honey. And she comes running. Now, my wife is a nurse by training, very professional. She's been in nursing for many, many years. And she sees me, and her first reaction is, call 911, call 911. And the kids come running from the back of the house, and they're all standing around me, and I'm saying, no, don't call 911. I'll be okay, I can hardly breathe. And so they gathered around me, and they said a prayer and everything, and I said, I'll be all right, but I did some serious damage. But what's the message? Well, the message is what are you holding on to? You know, it didn't matter how strong my grip was, because what I was holding on to was dead. It wasn't alive. It was like holding on to something that wasn't true. You know? I mean, it's like we're sitting here in this big room of people. If I say, okay, everybody, okay, close your eyes, raise your hand, and point north. Well, you're pointing this way, you're pointing this way, you're pointing this way, somebody's pointing that way. Okay, but where's north? Okay, north is that way. I have a compass sitting right here. That's north. So your opinion of north doesn't really matter because your opinion is not true. you're never going to get where you want to get to if you're just going to go by your opinion or your feeling at the moment. You have to be seeking the truth and own the truth, okay? You have to understand what's dead or alive in your life. It's a really powerful lesson that I had to learn, and I hope to share that with you as we go along through our journey together. Thank you very much.